Okay, this one is going to be, I know people are curious and then some are wondering the process of how I started and what it took, and then some of the examples to know when you're on that path, the divine path, and signs of it, to know that like you're on your purpose. So all I can say, my they wanted me to tell you how to do it, and I'm going to give you guys a warning. Um, and for those that know that this is for those that want to be on the divine path and those that know that they're divine, it'll enhance it and actually speed it up. But if you're not ready for it, don't do it, because you have to be strong enough to handle it. Like the stuff that I've described, most likely it will happen to you. And depending on how imbalanced you are, because all of this will bring you back in balance. Depending on how far off you are in balance, will decide how stressful or uncomfortable the process will be. So if you're not in that state of knowing like you're not ready for it, or if you know your intentions are not for, I guess, the greater good and not to promote balance in life, don't do this, because it'll just intensify. It'll bring you to balance, but it'll be very, very intense depending how imbalanced you are. So the first thing is, like how I said before, the universe will respond to you based on the question that you have, the question and your petition. So you have to ask the right question and ask, the right petition. What I had done, and I was tired of the way my life was. I was tired of the way people treated me. And I thought that maybe if I help change the world, that it'll spread out and it'll help the world be like a better place for me. That's how it started initially. So I wrote a petition, and basically it's only like two sentences. And you write it on paper, you don't even have to burn it. It's actually a contract between you and Source, God, and you give consent. You give consent to God to use you for the greater good, to promote life and balance. That's basically it. And you could add on to there, um, declare and ask. You can also ask for assistance from your spiritual battle team to make sure all you receive connect with, which is important too. And I'll do another video about on the different types of messages that you'll receive, and how to teach you by doing some inner work, to distinguish what is you, what is not you, what's positive, what's negative. So you declare and ask for assistance from your spiritual battle team to make sure all you receive connect with is comes from love, to promote life and balance for the greater good and your most highest spiritual divine good. Um, do it, if you can, do it every day, or when you feel like the messages aren't correct, they're not positive, or like you're just in an ugly mood. Do it as often as you want. That's basically commanding negative stuff cannot connect with you and give you messages. Um, and then embed, you can embed, like how I said before, embed this declaration into all your works and your energy field. And then the next thing I had done, I knew I was a good person, but I still, like all the stuff that was going on, I still didn't like myself. So I asked the universe, God, and my spiritual battle team to show me why I should love myself and to show me who I am. Just ask that, and they will. And you might be pretty amazed. And then in the process, to know that you're on the right path, you're on your purpose, and to know that the light within you is increasing, in which the light is, to me, is more like it's a key logger that lets you see things that you didn't receive before, the messages and everything. and how I said like everything is energy, and all energy is living, even your thoughts, even the table, the chair, they just interact with the universe differently, their consciousness. And so even like your thoughts, the more you think and focus on something, you give it more energy, it becomes more solid and manifests in the reality. And how I mentioned before, the like the O negative blood type, and having like walk-ins and certain people, because of this, like what is represented in the physical 3D world also manifests, translates in the energetic world. So the O negative, the antigen aspect, having the right receptors, or missing certain, not having antigens that will react, it's like energy. So in the energy world, when you don't have these antigens that will react, it's like almost having a or organ rejection. It prevents it. So higher level beings, energetic beings, when you don't have these antigens, energy antigens, they can actually manipulate you more, or it's easier for them to work through you. And also what affects the antigens too is certain people, depending on their bloodlines, their DNA, their heritage, the type of positive or negative work that their ancestors have done, affects these connections, these energy connections, which I would consider them, I call them keys. So the ones that can't receive mana, which is universal spiritual energy, what we use to manifest, its life energy, is because their negativity, and which I call the shit flinging, has blocked these receptors to receive mana. So that, because they can't receive the mana, because they, with all the negative stuff, they blocked all these receptors. So that's how, why they end up having to steal mana, this energy, from someone else, an object, an environment, because they've corrupted their connectors and connections to source. And as I call them keys, the connections with all the negativity gets corrupted. So it's like you can't open the door anymore because of all the negativity. So everyone has the keys. They have all the answers within, the ability to connect to source, the ability to get mana, but with all the negativity and all the shit flinging, it fucks up your keys. So you can't open the door and get what you need. But it's up to you. By cleaning up, you fix your keys. And also the way your belief and your thinking affects everything. Just like in the movie Neverland, your belief affects your future, and affects how you can energetically jump into new timelines, more at higher level energetic timelines, to change things for you and for everybody else. Um, and also another sign that you're like on your right path and you're receiving more light, the key loggers, and your keys are, you're repairing your keys for the knowledge, is you start seeing things you didn't see before. You start seeing God in everything. There's messages, how I say there's different layers of messages. There's surface layers of a message, like you just see the initial words, but then you'll start seeing more information from that sentence that you didn't see before, or from that picture, or from an idea. There'll be messages within messages, and you start seeing things you didn't see before. And even like your daily activities in life, like you'll you experience things as if it's brand new, like you're a little kid. Everything will seem exciting. Like you'll even, you can start coloring again, and it's like you didn't feel like that before. It's like everything's new. You have a different viewpoint. Your perspective different is different. So everything's exciting. Um and like the messages and the changes, it almost feels like you start getting clarity. Things start, it makes things easier, simpler. You feel more confident and sure about things, and you almost feel like you're releasing loads from your back. you need less to be happy instead of needing more. You start releasing things, and you start letting things go. It's really easy. And instead of grabbing things and feeling like you need more and more and that you're missing and lacking things, that starts disappearing. And so the littlest things start making you happy. Um, and let me see what else. Slowly, the hate, the sadness, um, the regrets, the jealousy, all the weight, the burdens, the negative thinking and feelings, slowly they start falling away. And of course, you start having more clarity. You're calm in your mind. There's less feelings of being lost. And that feeling of that knowing gets stronger and stronger. And that's one of the signs you know you're on your right path, you're on your purpose. And then, even one other thing that they would also do, like your guides, they work with you in your sleep. And at first, I thought maybe it was just I was really, really forgiving, but which it does cause that, but not forgiving in a bad way. But forgiving, like for you, where you don't hang on to stuff. It would be like I would get upset about something, and the next day I would wake up and it would be like, even though the situation's still the same, it was like it didn't bother me anymore. And most of the time that's how it was, and that's how it is for everything. Like the next morning, things don't bother me anymore. And things that are very, very heavy and hard to let go, like the longest it'll take me is 2 weeks to get over it. And medium stuff, like 3 days. So stuff like that, it's like you'll notice, like you wake up in the morning, you're happier. No, even though nothing has changed, it's just you have changed your perspective. So that's one of the other things that happens. It's to help you progress and not hang on to stuff and not be burdened and have a lot of judgment where you miss your messages or you misinterpret your messages, because that the judgment and the negative messes everything up, and it blocks it too, actually, and distorts it. And then you end up harming yourself and others. And then let me see. I have so much, it's all everywhere. Okay. Um, the messages are from source and God, because the messages receive that you get, all of it is designed to promote balance, to make things simple, to make things easier, to bring more clarity. And if people or events, ideas, anything that comes into your life that does the opposite, like brings more confusion, they're not part of your path. And those are not messages from source and God. There's other things that can talk to you, which I've experienced. Like after I started calming down, which I call them literally, it's almost like your own demons. You can create your own demons, your own thoughts, and you can actually receive demons from other people, their demons, and other like entities that people actually that they consider demons. And one experience, and it was like last year, because I do a lot of shadow work, trying to figure out parts of me, why, if I get triggered, which is a sign that something you need to look at within yourself if somebody triggers you, because like these demons, they, even if someone does black magic on you, they pick weak spots in your life within you and within your life, your environment. Say like you procrastinate on certain things, or maybe something needs to get fixed. The magic will cause that to break down. Or if you have an issue of maybe you don't like a certain part of your body, you'll start being jealous of somebody else the way they look. So your demons, the negative magic, everything, they find all the back doors. They find your weaknesses, or you care about this one person the most. The demons will target your relationship with that person if you don't have, if it's not balanced. So that just points at stuff you need to work on. It's your weak spots. And also like the messages from the positive, from your spiritual battle team, from God, they will never ever cause you to hurt yourself or anyone or anything else. Ever. Ever, never, ever. They never command or choose for you. They will not cause you, they will not manipulate you or cause you or make you think of manipulating someone else or anything else or to take. They're never ever negative. They're basically there as an advisor. And the way they speak to you, it's like the glass is always half full, no matter how they speak to you. And like one of my whispering incidents is, uh, well, I call it whispering. When someone, I knew it was something from the outside and I knew someone had sent it, but it was very clever. Oh my God. And it made me realize how much I had quieted my mind. And it brought me back to how I was before, the constant negative thinking of myself, of my environment, and just being suspicious of everything. So it was like 3 days of this voice, like nonstop, like stuff that I had worked on. It brought it all back. Somebody that I had forgiven, it brought it back where like I was like, you know what? Like I didn't forgive them. Like I almost like I had missed something. And it was trying to convince me like, like they kind of deserve this, they kind of deserve that. You're smarter than them. You could do this. And it was crazy. And I was like, after the third day, I was like, you know what? This doesn't sound right. Even though like I was like getting convinced, it was very convincing. I was like, you know what? If you are the universe, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do any of that at all. And maybe later on, you guys could, I was like, I'm not doing any of that. You guys are going to have to present it some other way or do something else. And then after that, I was like, you know what? This doesn't seem right. And in my head, I told it, I was like, you know what? Who are you? I was like, what are you? And it was crazy. No joke. I saw this female. I only saw like her head and like up to her shoulders. It was a white female that she kind of looked Greek, Hispanic. She had jet black straight hair. And she turned her, all I saw was her face. It was like to the side. I saw her face and I know it was at least shoulder length. I saw her face and she looked at me and she disappeared. And then that was it. No more fucking voices. And it scared the shit out of me that realized that someone can do that with magic and having a stronger will. And then my guides told me, they were like, don't worry. We weren't going to let them do anything to you. We wanted you to be aware because once you're aware, they can't do that. It makes you stronger. And they're like, we just let it happen so you can be aware. And then another time, I don't know if it's the same people or persons that do it. They got smarter and they extended the influence where it wasn't just one, just bombardment, just ideas after ideas. I like someone was conversating with me. They slowly started dripping things like over weeks. Like one day they'll whisper, "Oh, she sucks." And then another time, she doesn't like you. And then a couple of days later, like progressive, like just dripped it in. So at first I didn't catch it, that those were not actually my thoughts. And it took a couple of weeks and it took a couple of months and I realized, holy fucking shit. I was like, they are so slick. They can slowly drip stuff into your head. So that's why you need to do the inner work to know what you've worked on, that it isn't you. And then how I said before, they will never ever manipulate you or to have you manipulate or force you into anything. They will never ever be negative at all. And they will practically be positive about anything, everything, anything. And it just advise you the good and the bad, the positive and the negative. If you watch my other videos, like my life has been hella crazy, hella crazy, even till right now. There's a lot of stuff that I'm always working on, nonstop. Um, I was always suicidal my whole life, always. And there was a couple of times that I did attempt suicide. And then I stopped attempting when my kids' father he had passed away and he did his own version of suicide. He just basically, within 2 years, a year and a half, he basically drank and drugged himself to death. And he had given himself congestive heart failure, gout, and so he had trouble breathing. and he ended up dying in his sleep because he had a lot of money. He could get as much drugs and whatever drugs he wanted, and it fucked up my kids really bad. They were really depressed. My son's hair was falling out, and my daughter was angry, and it still affects them to this day. And there was a point where, like, it was about like 6 years ago, and the way I had lived my life, like, I was in so much pain, and like my family, the way they were, very dysfunctional, and my kids were very spoiled and demanding, and like I just felt horrible being in so much pain, being miserable, feeling like my bones are falling apart, and I couldn't eat, and I was on all these meds, and felt like my skin was on fire. I just wanted to die. And I was like, why would God have you have someone be like this? And I worked so hard to get my bachelor's degree in nursing, and I couldn't finish like being pre-med because of my family. I had to like quit and just be a regular nurse. And then basically I lived my life where I wasn't like attempting to commit suicide, but I lived my life like I didn't want to live. I would do things like not fasten my seatbelt, not be careful, not care about the food I ate. Like I just didn't care. Just living your life like you didn't want to live. And I had some crazy stuff had happened, and I was just tired of it. I was tired of my family, and I had decided, it was crazy though. I had decided I didn't want to live anymore. That I was going to commit suicide. And I even told my daughter and her girlfriend when they were living here, I was like, you know what, I'm committing suicide. And they didn't even stop me or anything. It was weird. I don't know if they didn't believe me, but the thing was, the moment I decided, well, I felt happy. I was relieved that I made that decision. But what was going on was, I was speaking to my guides, and I was telling them, my life sucks. I'm in so much pain, and how I can't live like this anymore. I'm miserable, and I feel so like alone, and I feel like I'm being punished. And my guides weren't like, no, don't do it. They weren't. And I had told them, like, the only thing that stopped me this whole time was I didn't want my kids to feel like I abandoned them, that it was their fault, that I was just miserable. But I didn't want them to feel that way. I didn't want them to go through the same thing with their dad, because they felt like their dad chose that they weren't important enough for him to stay alive. And I didn't, and that it was their fault. And I said I didn't want my kids to feel like that. You know what my guides told me? They're like, you know what? You know what you should do? You should write like a journal or a book and leave it for them. Then they'll know that you didn't abandon them because, you didn't love them enough, and that, it wasn't their fault. Write a book, write it all down. What ended up happening, it just gave me time to learn more and get over this suicide feeling. That's how they work. They don't tell you, no, don't do it. They just advise you. And they're always glass half full. They have to go along with your choices and just give you like positive or negatives. They have to help you whatever path you take. And that's how they work. And that's how they speak to you. They advise you like that. They tell them, no, don't do it. And no, they're like, just write a book. Write it all down. All like calm. I was like, and I woke up and I was like, after that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. And after that, I was like, yeah, that's what I'll do. And I was happy. Like their messages, whatever it is, it brings clarity. And it actually brings balance no matter where you go. Just like that example. They will never bring you to harm yourself or anybody else or command you. Everything they do is to improve your life. They're always glass half full. And so just try this for 2 to 4 weeks. Do things that works with the universe to bring balance. Do everything to create balance. Be nice. Even mentally bless and thank a person. Be kind. Give and help only when you can. When you have extra time and extra to give. And not to do it to receive anything. Not for an agenda, not to receive intentions, not to make somebody like you. Just do it to be nice. And don't do it as a form of so you don't work on yourself, or if you realize you're codependent where you need people to like you, work on your codependency first. But be nice and be happy for someone and only see them as an example of what you yourself can accomplish. Don't be jealous of them. Don't do that. Try this for 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, and just see how much it makes a difference in your life. No joke, it will work. The littlest things draws the universe to you and to help you and to make things way easier in manifesting. So I hope this works. And this is how I did it. And this is how I started. They told me to tell you. But you have to know you have to be ready for it. Because depending on how imbalanced you are, it'll decide how uncomfortable or comfortable it'll be for you. So again, remember everything's simple but complicated.